Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of My McLaren Return to Glory here on F1 23. We're back once again after missing an upload yesterday, which we had to focus on some F1 Manager gameplay. We're back and we're looking to take on the Italian Grand Prix in Monza. Before that, guys, check out the previous episode, link in the top right to the Dutch Grand Prix, where there were some big changes taking place and it is going to affect the rest of the season in this series, so go check it out and yeah, let me know what you think. But we're going to jump into this weekend's action and into the first bits of business, which is going to be, of course, upgrades, and we're going to see what's new heading into the Temple of Speed. So let's get into it. First things first is a failed upgrade for the underfloor, which we're going to have to fix on the chassis side of things, which we've got a bunch of points saved up, so it's not going to be an expensive fix, but never ideal to have a failure, of course, on any upgrade. After that, we got confirmation that the NGUH has arrived, which is important because we've had a couple of failures on that front and we're a bit thin on components over there, so that is a welcome addition. We then also went ahead and purchased a minor drag reduction upgrade, which is now 1,000 points. That is so expensive for a minor, but the prices now are getting so high as we're quite advanced in upgrades already midway through this season. We then look at the forecast, which is dry this weekend, and then we look at the performance chart, which we don't have upgrades on our car this weekend, and you can see there's a lot of moving. So Haas, Alpine bring a pretty big package, they close the gap to us, and in front, Mercedes, Aston Martin close the gap on Ferrari and Red Bull. So pretty much you've kind of got like a top four, and then like a midfield three, and then like a bottom three starting to form at this stage. So yeah, constant change, constant movement, but nonetheless, we're going to move into practice and yeah, see exactly what Monza is all about in this game. So, I got to say, great fun to drive. The traction zones, of course, are much more fun this year with the improved handling physics, and it makes for a much better experience. Tyre wear was very positive, quite low, which is good to see. Fuel consumption, pretty high, as you'd expect around here, which is a pretty high-speed, full throttle circuit for most of the lap. And yeah, overall, a good session, a positive session. We'll also change the gearbox heading into qualifying because it was on about 63%. And by the time we kind of get through FP3 and then do qualifying for the race, we're probably looking at like a 70% gearbox, and that could be prone to failures in the race, which you don't want around here. So yeah, we basically swapped the gearbox out, and we're now on our last fresh gearbox for the remaining races. So it could be close to squeeze this. We may have to get a penalty at some point for a new gearbox at some point down the line. Anyway, you join me in Q1. Now, Verstappen was on his end lap, so I re-overtook him and got my lap underway. But speaking of Red Bulls, Verstappen aside, who peels off into the pit lane, Sergio Perez retires from qualifying, and it was right ahead of us here on the pit straight. And interestingly, he's off to the left-hand side, so I'm not too sure. I'm going to guess he collided with the car leaving the pits, but I didn't actually check a replay at the time, so I'm not too certain. Either way, a strange way to start off qualifying, and we'll see how that affects things. For now, though, we have a bit of traffic on our time lap in the form of Leclerc, and now Hulkenberg, who gets in the way through the Ascari chicane. And to be fair, it was one of them ones where it wasn't a hold up in terms of time, but it was a visual distraction, so I ended up cutting the corner because I was too focused on the Haas and not focused on myself. Anyway, I went for another push lap straight away, not even a cool down lap, just literally pulled over and just recharged and went again. And we was actually up by a tenth and a half up until the invalidation point, so we're actually in a better lap this time around. Making our way into the final corner, the Michele Alboreto curve or parabolica, and now making our way up to the start finish. Let's see, it's going to be a 118.8, and that gives us P11, which isn't too shabby. As you'll see, Perez has a bit of a weird sort of bugged lap time. I don't know how this works. Obviously, it's some sort of glitch, but Checo, of course, has DNF'd, but he has set a lap, which is fast, yet somehow he's P15, so I don't know exactly why. Meanwhile, we have a margin of about 3/10 over Hulkenberg in terms of safety, so I didn't go back out, and we was comfortably safe into Q2. So yeah, we saved a set of tyres, and that's what matters. But the key takeaway here, Perez out with some sort of bug, even though he set a valid lap time, and that means we have 6 cars dropping out of Q1, not 5. So yeah, only 4 cars will drop out of Q2. So it's going to be a bit closer in terms of who's going to get through, and the margins are going to be a bit tighter in this session. So here we go, and we've got a fresh set of tyres on our car for this first Q2 run. and we're going to hopefully go for 2 fresh tyre runs, and that should do the job. On this first one, I've given myself fuel, so if I need a second lap, I can take it. For now, though, we're going to see what the first banker lap is. We did it at 18.8 in Q1 as a kind of benchmark, and in Q2, our first lap is going to be at 19.1, so not particularly great. And that's a fresh tyre as well, so we're actually 0.3 slower. So I went for a cool down lap, and we're now going to go for a second push, which I said before we were fueled for that if required. And I know this time to find, of course, based off the Q1 time. So here we go. Turn 1. Spot the 100-meter board, brake just before it. Down to 3rd gear. Didn't quite get the apex at 1, but 2 was pretty tidy. Exit was really nice. Nice smooth traction there. No wheel spin, and that finds us a 10th straight away. Flat out through turn 3, and now preparing the turn 4-5 chicane. Again, brake just after the 100, I would say. Down to 4th gear. And tip the car in, avoid both inside curbs this year, and then use all the runoff curb into the Lesmos, number 1. Try and stay tight, hold it in 5th, feather the throttle and use all the runoff curb, Lesmo 2. Make sure you clip that inside sausage curb there, the yellow, the green kind of, inside sausage curb. That's going to help you get a bit more rotation. And you can see we found a load of time on the Delta as we head into Ascari, braking at just after the 100 again, 5th gear, shifting to 6th. Flat out on the exit, and we're half a second up, and this is much more like it, and much more the sort of lap we were looking for. Into the final corner, brake at the 50, down to 5th gear, try to stay tight. We wash out a little bit wide and get on the marbles, and I have a bit of a moment with some oversteer. We lose a bit of time in that final corner, so we improved by 4.5 tenths to an 18.6, which is a decent lap. The gap to the top 7 is massive, so we're not going to do much better than P8. We can only extend or move the goalposts in terms of those cars looking to get through. So yeah, here we go then. Time for the final lap in Q2. I think I'm safe, but just to be certain, I'm going to go for another run because a 0.2 margin may not be enough. So I just want to double check that we're locked in and we're into Q3. So here we go. We're fueled for one single lap and we know what to do. Turn 1 at the 100. We actually push it super late on the brakes this time, and we managed to get the car stopped. Exit also decent enough, so we find a bit of time in that first chicane, so a very good start to the lap. I didn't really think there was time to find besides the final corner, so if we can just match the previous lap and just clean up the final corner, that will help. Into the 4-5 chicane, this time taking a bit of inside curb, and we get lucky to not lose the balance of the car, and we find a bit more time. Into the Lesmos, also trying to push a bit more here, and we're just kind of finding little fractions of time here and there. As you can see, we are now a 10th up, so if we can just keep Ascari clean and get Parabolica nailed, this could be a very, very good lap. Speaking of which, braking just after the 100, but we turn in just a bit too soon. Could that be a costly error? No, it isn't. We make it through into Q3 just in 10th place. And to be fair, it was actually pretty safe in terms of lap time. We nearly got through by 0.2, but P10, last position to get through on the cusp, and job done for us in Q2. Ferrari 1-2 out front and looking very strong. Lando also in the mix, to be fair, for that battle for P4. And yeah, overall, happy we got that done. And that first lap, or that's technically the second lap of the first run, was good enough. Now then, it's time for the main event of qualifying, Q3. First lap is going to be on that same tyre we just used, which we validated on, and we actually set a 118.3. So we come out of the blocks flying with a personal best by nearly 0.3 of a second. It was a spectacular lap as we smashed the second and third sectors. The first one wasn't great, but I basically went for a all or nothing approach, and we nailed sectors 2 and 3. So I'll give myself a good benchmark for this final run. Fresh set of tyres, minimum fuel, this is it. And that lap was simply fantastic. Very, very good lap. We qualified P7, we PB with a 118.1, and what an improvement in lap time compared to Q2. We really found some pace and delivered a perfect lap pretty much. There was nothing left in that. I was very, very, very happy with it. There was maybe half a tenth in the first sector, but that wouldn't have changed our position. So we maximized the result. And yeah, that lap was pretty much up there with Monaco this season in terms of qualifying laps being pretty much perfect for me and, you know, getting the maximum out of the car. So a very good session, and we peak at the right time, and that gives us a great chance at points in the race. So guys, let's get to the main event and let's see if we can secure the bag.
Welcome to the home of the Parabolica, now known as the Curva Alboreto in tribute to the Italian motorsport legend Michele Alboreto. It's a long right-hander. It dares you to keep your foot as far down on the throttle as you possibly can. It's one of the great corners on the calendar, and we're here at Monza, ahead of the Italian Grand Prix. With top speeds up to 215 and an average lap speed of around 155 miles per hour, Monza's reputation as one of the fastest circuits in the sport is well earned. We have 11 corners on this 3.6 mile track, with the best overtaking chance coming into the heavy braking zone of the Turn 1 chicane. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Norris, Russell, Martinez, Ocon, Magnussen, Gasly, Hülkenberg, Hamilton, Stroll, Perez, Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso, Sargent, Bottas, Zhou, Albon, and Nick de Vries. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And alongside me once again for coverage of today's race is none other than the great Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about Martinez. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Here we go then, time for the race at Monza. We start from P6 as we gain a place after a grid penalty. So myself and Lando, P4, P6. This could be an excellent race for us to get some big points this afternoon. So strategy for this one is going to be a one-stop, a medium to hard high strat. Very simple, very straightforward. It's much quicker than a two-stop. So this is the obvious choice. I think some cars might go for the soft, but I'm going to go for the harder compounds to have better performance at the end of the stint and be more competitive long term. Our straight line speed seems pretty decent, so yeah, fuel wise, 1 lap extra fuel. We'll see how it pans out. Either way, I'm excited. I think this could be a strong one, and hopefully we can get those points and try to once again extend our gap over Aston Martin. Right then, here we go. Time for the Italian Grand Prix. The lights are on and they're out. Russell with a terrible start. Ours wasn't much better, but we get the jump and we're getting a place. Alonso was the car that had a penalty, so that is the perfect scenario as he is now out of the equation. And just like that, myself and Lando into the top 5, which is perfect. The absolute perfect start to this race pretty much. Now we're going to see what kind of pace we have around the Temple of Speed. I think this could be a good race for us. I've got a good feeling. Just hope. To be fair, I'd be happy with it to be a nice, smooth and boring race. Don't really want any dramas in P4 and P5. I'd be quite happy with a pretty, pedestrian routine race, but I know it won't be that simple. As Russell there looked to get a move on, but got a bit out of shape through the Lesmo exit. But let's see. Right now, Leclerc making a break out front. Russell challenging, so this tells me our straight line speed could be a little bit on the lower side. Verstappen, Sainz side by side, up ahead into Ascari. We hold our own versus George, but the danger isn't over yet. As we race down to the final corner, Hülkenberg now looking for the pass, and Lando's getting involved in the battle for the lead. Trying to pick my lines wisely as we close out the opening lap. Here comes Russell. We managed to get back in front. Oh my god, 3 wide. Lando's now going for the move. Russell going through. This is going to get ugly. This could get very ugly. I'm going to go nice and deep on the brakes. Hold my own. We end up challenging Lando. Going to try and fall in behind our teammate. I'm going to try and see if we can work as a unit, work as a team, as a block, to try and stop others trying to get by. As Russell, once again, looking to get by. We're going to have to defend as we almost run to the back of Norris. Just about keeping our front wing in one piece. This is going to be an interesting race, this one. Lots of chaos. And we're going to get lots of action as well, so just got to try and manage things the best we can. The margins are going to be fine, and that's where this race will be decided, on the margins. For now though, it's okay, although Verstappen now re-challenging Sainz, and DRS will be enabled next lap, so that's going to make things even spicier. I'll have to look at maybe making a pass here and trying to clear all 3 of these guys. For now though, seems like the straight line speed isn't too bad. Now we're up to speed. Verstappen and Sainz, they're still going for it, so just trying to be mindful. Norris is going to get involved again, and he goes for it early.
Okay, DRS will be enabled this lap. You can use it when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone.
I can't challenge, I'm going to have to get on the brakes. I tried to follow Norris through there. Instead, we'll settle for maybe just getting Sainz. And Norris is going to get the burners on and get past Max Verstappen, or try to anyway. This is excellent for us though. We're really starting off this race strong, and Lando does get through. Wow, well, this is a turn up for the books. Let's see if we can maybe have a look at Max and make this a McLaren 2-3, and we can keep working together. This is going excellent so far. Haven't taken a break since the race started. This is full on action. Our straight line speed is very good at VMAX, better than I thought. Verstappen closing on Norris, going from left to right into Ascari side by side they go, and Norris comes out on top. Whoa, big moment there. Had to check my straight line speed. I really don't want to make this 3 wide with Lando, so I'm going to just fall in behind and wait. Anyone else would have gone for that, but trying to work as a team here. Not sure who's going to get DRS out of these 2. Sainz is also lurking. Lando gets the DRS. Here we go. We're going to pull the trigger and go for it. Down the inside. Leaving space. Whoa, Lando moves right across there.
No need to worry about the tyre condition for now. Everything's looking good.
Front wing still in one piece, and Russell's turned up out of nowhere. That's a surprise. Russell, out of nowhere, has just rocked up to the party. I'm going to see if I can try and break this train. You can see they're battling behind, so we've already broken the DRS. Not sure what happened, but I'm going to try and cash in and basically use the AI's time loss in wheel-to-wheel combat to break away. You can see the gap Leclerc's got is insane. So let's try and see if we can push away. Well, Verstappen has got himself into 3rd and basically has reformed the train. I'll try to break away, but Verstappen's too quick and he's dragging Sainz and Russell with him. Norris has dropped down the order a bit. We have a bit of a breakaway though in the train a bit further back, but I'm not going to fight Verstappen here. I've used a lot of battery to get by, so we'll let Max do his thing and cruise on. Got to try and be a bit more efficient now with the racecraft to try and streamline this race a bit. Well, Russell's been dropped. This is interesting. Sainz is pushing, using battery, trying to put pressure on. I'm just sitting behind Verstappen.
The gap to the car in front is less than 1 second now. Well done. Let's try and get past in the DRS zone.
Tried to go through there. I wasn't too sure on the braking point, so I broke a bit early, probably a bit too early. Perez up to P5. What a recovery from Checo. First warning. Not a big issue, just got to be careful. I'm not getting any more, still 20 laps to go. Ooh, might have just lost DRS on Verstappen here. Just got a bit of a gap and I haven't been able to cover, so I might let Sainz go here. Just to kind of keep ourselves in the race. There he goes. The Ferrari's actually really fast in the straight, so we'll let Sainz crack on.
Okay, safety car deployed. Safety car's been deployed. Watch your delta. Make sure you keep it positive as we catch the pack. There's a new strategy available on the MFD.
Clearly something happened in turn 1. You probably won't get offered a strategy as it is broken.
Copy.
Well, we can choose. I'll go for the hard tyre. We'll box now and go to the end. Pretty simple. Checo's got himself on the P5. Lando, I know what's going to happen. He's not going to pit when he should. Hopefully he does. Worst way to be a very short stack behind me, but it's worth pitting. Right, here we go. Let's see if we can cut this fine.
Okay, we can take you this lap.
Just made the speed limit. Verstappen, Sainz may get held here by other cars entering the pits behind.
Lando's in the pits. Lando in the pits.
And Lando does pit, which is good. Great stop, 2.2. It's a minimal hold for Lando, the best we can do. And we've managed to jump Carlos Sainz. Not Verstappen though, but that's okay. We've got one car back.
Okay, stay clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross onto the track.
Interestingly, Sainz and Leclerc on medium. Pretty sure Sainz was on a medium anyway, so that means Ferrari have to stop again. So Ferrari with the classic Ferrari strat. Okay, so this now becomes a battle for the win, I'm guessing, if my maths is correct. Checo's also got himself into contention from P15 to P5, starting on the soft tyre, and now on the same strategy as us. So it's going to be, if my maths is correct, pretty much 2 Red Bulls versus 2 Mercedes versus 2 McLarens. Now then, realistically, I'm not going to fight too hard versus the Ferraris on mediums and the Red Bulls. Just got to make sure we try and stay within DRS range. Also, shout out to the person in the comments in a recent episode who said to warm up the tyres, you basically have to just sit on the brake, basically 20-30%, and that just warms the tyres from the inside by warming the brakes up. Very good tip, gets the tyres nice and warm, no need to scrub them or be aggressive with tyre warm up, and you that way limit tyre wear. But anyway, restart time. Let's get to work. Good reaction, and we're back underway. Green flag in the slipstream, here comes Sainz. Does he commit into turn 1? Yes, he does. Oh my god, that caught me out. Gonna have to take the excursion here. That's gonna cost us a bit of time. Although the AI do kind of slow down, so that's okay. Got away with that one. Russell goes through. Hulkenberg behind on soft tyres. Another interesting strategy this time from Haas. Down for the chicane. Norris, Hulkenberg side by side behind me. But that was a poor turn 1, although not a terrible turn 1. We know we can keep up with Russell. It's not a big deal, so just got to try and stay out of trouble if we can for now. Lando's having a proper scrap with Hulkenberg behind. Gasly also is involved. Meanwhile, we've kept up with these 3 cars. I'm keen to see what happens. I've seen the comments and you guys want me to be more aggressive, but I'm also trying to be smart in terms of how I, attack the race and decide when is the right time to move. But yeah, DRS will be enabled next lap, and that will open up the race a bit. Right now, the Red Bulls look pretty strong instead of the Ferraris. The one car we can realistically beat is Russell, so that's what we're trying to aim for here. Play the long game. It's absolute chaos. Behind, you can see the gap is growing massively as there's just an almighty battle going on back there. And now you can see here Sainz trying to battle with Perez whilst under pressure from Russell. It's all kicking off. Out front, Leclerc Verstappen breaking away. That could be a new battle, but of course Ferraris have to pit, so Verstappen's on for a win here, barring disaster. The slipstream, by the way, is insane. It's so powerful around here. The most powerful I've noticed since Jeddah, if not ever, in this game so far. Perez on to Sainz. Russell is going to make it an easy 3 wide. And this is basically what is happening these last few laps non-stop. Alonso's up to 8th now, so he's fighting back in the Aston Martin. Lando's dropping. He's not efficient in multiple combat, it seems, and is having trouble. I'm sitting here just biding my time, waiting for the moment. Obviously, Sainz will eventually get out of the way once he pits, and then it will just be a 3-way fight between myself, Russell and Perez. And I'm basically keeping my batteries charged, saving tyres, and waiting to strike later on if we get the chance. I could try to pass, but I feel like it's going to be the exact same thing as before, where I got caught and they basically all kind of dragged along anyway. So I'm just thinking more long term here, although I could have probably passed them.
Information on Perez. They seem to have an issue.
That's interesting because that now opens up the door for a podium. With Russell going to the end and we know we can match him for pace, Sainz pitting and Perez in trouble, that means now it's me versus George for a P3 spot. So now would be the time to pass George Russell. Oh, Russell with a moment. That might just present the invitation. Sainz going to move on Checo up ahead. Here we go on Russell. Oh, that's late. That's a late one. Got the car stopped enough to not get a track limit warning. But that was a late one on the brakes around the outside. Lando back up to 7th. And now we're going to have to try and pass Checo. And then we'll see what Sainz does. Checo loose on the exit. That could present the opportunity to overtake. We know the Red Bull's fast on the straight. Could we get a run on Sainz in the process? 360 k's plus. Yellow flag.
Okay, clear.
Oh, hitting the rear, been rammed. Good exit. Green flag. Back into yellow. Back to green. There we go. Checo out the race. Side by side with Sainz. Around the outside we go. Nice. Clean move. Let's try and push, use up the battery. Russell, not sure if he's going to have DRS or not on Sainz, but we need to try and push. I'm using up all the battery here to see if I can break Sainz's DRS. Leclerc pits. Might have just done it. It will be close. I think I have broken the DRS though. So Sainz will be in either this lap or the next one. So Verstappen leads, and we're up to 2nd place now. This is key. I'm trying to save battery and recharge, so this is working out beautifully. Leclerc out in P5, and to be fair, realistically could still catch, although it's on a hard tyre, but it's a fresh hard tyre. Sainz should pit, so the gap to Russell is going to be 2 seconds to manage for the rest of this race. Second warning. Got to be careful now. Leclerc goes through. But they're currently side by side, which is exactly what we want. There we go, a bit of time loss. Leclerc does go through, but Russell loses a chunk of time. Got a wheel in the gravel there. That is going to make Leclerc now have the DRS on me. Russell, to be fair, has dropped off. That was a horrible Lesmo. I'm going to let Leclerc go. I'll see if I can maybe sit behind him in the DRS. And we can maybe try to get him back on the last lap, but I'm starting to run out of tyres now. The rear tyres are letting go. I haven't got the rear grip. Also on 2 warnings, so be careful as well. Using all the battery. Closing like crazy, but not going to make it. Don't want to get a penalty now and throw away this podium, so we'll just settle for P3, which is absolutely fine. Just didn't have the tyres. Obviously Ferrari pulled off the weird 2-stop. Threw away the race win, but Leclerc was so fast today. Verstappen wins, and Lando's I think is in P6, so a decent points haul for the team, crucially, versus Aston Martin, so we'll take that. Great race today.
Top job, mate. Top job. Yes. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but man, you pulled through. Thank you. Well done.
There it is then, victory in the Italian Grand Prix, an historic race and an achievement they can be immensely proud of. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy and to stay out of trouble.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
There we go then, guys. Monza in the books. And the one thing I noticed in the results, Fernando Alonso was nowhere to be found. So something happened. Lance managed to crawl into the points in P9. But crucially, it's a good day in the office for us as we pick up some huge points. 23 points in the bag to Aston Martin's 2. And that is huge for the constructors. As you can see, Verstappen wins. Leclerc throwing away a win. Thanks to Ferrari's strategy, Binotto must have been put in charge for this one because Sainz also finished in P10, so an absolute disaster from Ferrari in their home Grand Prix of all races as they went for the weird two-stopper. But yeah, there's your lot. There's your top 10. Mercedes P4, P5, both Alpines in the points in P7, P8, but crucially P3, P6 for both McLarens here today. Standings, as you can see, we are currently 8th. We cut the gap to Alonso, who didn't score any points today. Lando close behind, and we're basically running as a team. Constructors wise, we're 4th, and Aston Martin, the gap opens up and we can breathe a little bit. The gap is now 22 points and it was 1 point before this race, so that's a very nice advantage which has gone our way. So yeah guys, hopefully you enjoyed that race. That was much more like it in terms of results and a lot of fun, and that's exactly what the dot called in the final European round, guys, before the final flyaways. So yeah, cheers for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. As always, a big shout out to the members for supporting my channel. Always love you guys and always appreciate you guys in the comments. Check out the 2 videos on screen whenever you haven't seen them already, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. I believe it's Singapore. So yeah, cheers for watching and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.